Our next guest says that it is highly likely that terror is the leading theory here. California Congressman Ed Royce is chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, good to see you here.
Good to be with you.
Why do you say that?
Well, because for one thing, this plane has been targeted in the past. In Arabic, on the fuselage, underneath the plane was written the words, "We will take this plane down." In Egypt right now, we have ISIS operational in the Sinai and carrying out operations on the border. They're also training in Libya, 6,500 ISIS trainers, and what they're trying to do is attack targets across North Africa and specifically trying to develop an undetectable bomb. Since we know this has been their past behavior, and since they've also taken down one flight already, flying from Egypt to Russia and taking credit for that, I assume that that's exactly what's underway here. We will find out when we get that black box.
So you believe that there was a cryptic message that was written on the fuselage from this plane?
This very plane. In the past, someone got close enough to this plane to write that in Arabic while it was in Egypt. And I think that does show the attitude. You know, there's a war going on within the Muslim world between these groups like ISIS and other jihadists versus the government in Egypt. And I was recently in Tunisia talking with our ambassador there from Libya and meeting with the Tunisian officials, and they were sharing with us just how quickly ISIS is expanding its operations because we haven't hit them. We have not taken ISIS out from the air. We have not used our considerable air power to take out these new training centers they're setting up. And to the extent that they're able to train people in these new techniques to make bigger and bigger bombs, more and more undetectable, they're spreading throughout that part of the world, not just in Raqqa, Syria, but now through other centers where they're setting up these training camps. The United States needs to lead on this, and this president needs to have a strategy to take out ISIS, to eliminate this ISIS threat.
Which, as we know, is a twofold job. It's a job that has to happen on the ground, but then you also have these, areas across the world. I mean, this plane originated in Paris, and there's work to be done clearly in terms of security in all of the airports around the world. We also know that smoke generated from the cockpit, and you had some details over the weekend on that as well.
Yes, what we know is that not only was there smoke in the electronics and in the laboratory, but we also know that the computer system was rapidly failing, computer errors were compounding on the system. We know that the windows were blown out and open to the sky. So under this kind of circumstance, it be very easily explained if it was a device that created all of that. But remember, there was only a few minutes here to respond, and apparently the pilots didn't have time to respond. So this was a plane that had just seen maintenance not too long ago. It was at an altitude where there are rarely these types of mechanical failures. So when we get the black box, we will know for sure. But the one thing we know is that ISIS is dedicated to taking down planes like this, took down one before, and frankly, we need to take out ISIS.
We heard from Chairman McCall over the weekend, who pointed out that in that prior Egypt airline that was taken down, it took 2.5 weeks for ISIS to claim responsibility, which seems like a long time.
And remember, if you're a terrorist organization and you're trying to develop bombs that are undetectable and you're working on this kind of technology, as we know they are and as we know Al-Qaeda is. But again, that goes to why we are so frustrated with the administration's lack of a strategy to hit the terrorist training camps and to give the kinds of aid that those fighting ISIS need. I was just up in Erbil with the Kurdish units and met with the Christians there, met with the Yazidis, with the Sunni tribes. All have the same question. Why aren't you providing us with the type of weaponry needed for us to take our villages back? And why, as a second question, why aren't we providing the kind of air support? And we need forward observers here to call in those airstrikes on the ground. We should have taken out those ISIS units when they first left Raqqa and went over the border towards Fallujah. And despite call upon call on this administration to act, air power was not used for 8 months or so as 14 major cities in Iraq were taken. And we still haven't seen a plan out of this administration. And he's the commander-in-chief. And we're trying to push along this level of support to get him to take these actions. But it looks to me like it's going to be foot-dragging all the way until the next administration.
Congressman Royce, thank you very much. Always good to have you with us. Thanks for being here today.